good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the last, but definitely not the least, of the early webinar series of 2026. And the title of this webinar is Making Connections to Improve Infrastructure Quality. My name is Fadzai Mnodawafa, and I work as a consultant with Hydrologica, a firm that deals with consulting and training in professionalism in borehole drilling. So for our agenda for today, we'll have our welcome and housekeeping, which has already been done. We'll then have setting the scene from Kirsten, who is going to give us a journey of the Stop the Rot up to today. And then we'll move on to pitches for the World Café. I'm really excited about this bit. I'll tell you more about it as we go on, but we're going to have a World Café and we'll have pitches from specialists in 5 different groups. So we'll have a pitch on borehole design, drilling, and construction. Secondly, seasonality of drilling and hand pump operations. Thirdly, hand pump upgrades and design improvements. Fourth, hand pump corrosion and prevention. Fifth, hand pump supply chains. I'll also then introduce the specialists as we go forward. Next on our agenda, we'll then have the World Café round 1. We'll have the World Café round 2. And to close it off, we'll have key takeaways and the closing session of the agenda. So I'm honored to be the one who is moderating this particular webinar, and it's a webinar with a difference. So the Stop the Rot, since it started in 2021, it has brought champions together who are striving to improve the quality of boreholes and hand pumps. In this different, exciting, and highly consultative World Café sort of webinar, you will have the opportunity to directly engage with specialists and researchers on borehole design, drilling and construction, seasonality of drilling and hand pump operations, hand pump upgrades and design improvements, hand pump corrosion prevention, and hand pump supply chains. So to start off, we're going to have a set the scene, taking a journey from how Stop the Rot started up until today. So onto the virtual podium, I would like to welcome Dr. Kirsten Dunnett. How lovely to call her that. Who is a water specialist, researcher, and facilitator with over 25 years of experience in international development. Her current areas of focus are groundwater development, infrastructure quality, and ensuring ongoing water supply service delivery within sub-Saharan Africa. Welcome, Kirsten, to the podium, and it's all yours.
Thanks, Fadzai, and it's my honor to be chaired by you. So I'm going to hand that honor back to you. Great. So I'm going to switch my video off and give you my presentation. So really greetings to you all. It's been a delight to work with everyone in the organization of this webinar. And just as it continues to both delight and inspire as I try to lead, or perhaps better put, facilitate the Stop the Rot initiative of RWSN. The image on this slide is of Celtic knotwork, which is an absolutely beautiful art form that's both ancient and modern. And it weaves multiple cords in and out of each other to form a really striking geometric pattern or patterns. And I've chosen to put that here because of the weft and the weave of the many different issues that need to be considered when planning, building, operating, and maintaining rural water supply services. And like the infinite forms that are Celtic knotwork, there are many contexts for water supply provision. And like the cords that loop back and forth into themselves, there's no endpoint either when it comes to wash services. So the reasoning behind the Stop the Rot initiative is that rapid hand pump corrosion poor quality components and low quality boreholes affect millions of people, and that they still affect many people, but they're solvable problems. And they're only solvable if we truly work together and if enough of us care about it. So the mission of Stop the Rot is to ensure that hand pumps and boreholes are consistently good quality and that they're corrosion resistant and installed correctly. And our vision, in line with that of RWSN, is safe, reliable, affordable water supply for everybody. So how is Stop the Rot trying to do that? Well, our pathway to scale, the way that we want to get there, is that Stop the Rot provides evidence, disseminates evidence and guidance, and probably most importantly, supports champions to assure quality. So if you're attending this webinar today, you're most likely a champion already. And if not, you may want to be one by the end of the webinar. This is another way of visualizing what Stop the Rot is addressing and trying to achieve. The initiative is looking closely at low quality boreholes, poor quality hand pumps, rapid hand pump corrosion, and where they intersect. And with this presentation, I'm really not going to go into a lot of technical details because it's well documented elsewhere. And you can find links to the web pages that collate information on subsequent slides, as well as in the chat. But suffice to say that professionalism in the siting, drilling, oversight of boreholes is often lacking. That although there are quality assurance mechanisms for hand pump components, they're not always used. And missing from this poster, but part of the webinar, there are also hand pump design improvements that can make a difference. And last, but by no means least, is the fact that hand pump corrosion has been known for decades, but simple mistakes are being repeated over and over again. Stop the Rot is trying to move from such problems towards solutions. Now, for sure, some of you are thinking about what's missing from this poster, like why are they not talking about services? Why are they not talking about finance? But just to say that our focus is really on the technical components and what feeds into those technical issues, quality issues. So everybody who's part of the initiative is aware of the importance of maintenance, of operational services, but our focus is to really make sure that the infrastructure, including the spare parts, are of sufficient quality to be maintained. And we are talking to other networks, including Agenda for Change, and we've got a blog just starting with them. So some of you may ask, why are you bothering with hand pumps? This is just a slide showing the different, let me just set the scene here. For those of you who've already seen these figures, please do forgive me, but these maps show figures from my 2022 report about the proportion of people that rely on groundwater, that's the blue, per country, the proportion of people that, total people, not just rural, but rural and urban, that rely on a borehole and protected well, and then the map on the right with the brown is the proportion of the population that rely on a hand pump. So probably there are about 0.7 million, 700,000 hand pumps in Africa, and on average, 1 in 5 people rely on a hand pump, with about another 1 in 5 still relying on unmanaged, unsafe, unprotected water supplies. So if we go to the next slide, I've really had the pleasure to be able to spend a really large proportion of my working life on one problem that at the same time encompasses many different issues. And that problem, or the challenge if you prefer, requires not only the dedication of people and organizations, but really needs us to learn from each other and to challenge each other, to ask questions continuously. And like the Celtic knotwork, there's no endpoint. And so after almost 20 years of really looking at boreholes and professionalism and working in the tangle of drilling professionalism, I'm really delighted to see Fadzai, in fact, our chair for this webinar, as the theme lead for this topic. And Fadzai has become its custodian and champion, charting new directions. And thanks to the support of the Waterloo Foundation, in 2021, I was able to shift my attention towards hand pumps, something that I thought had been largely neglected for some time. But I found many others that are interested in this topic, and many of those have joined the Stop the Rot action group already. And so in my backpack, I take the learnings from the work on professional drilling alongside new ideas, and perhaps more importantly, many new people on to Stop the Rot and looking more closely at hand pumps. And that brings me to this webinar. If you can go one more slide, please. Thank you. In the polls from previous Stop the Rot webinars, and also the recent RWSN member survey, you've been asking for more interaction with each other and with specialists. And so that's what this webinar is all about, to give you a space to interact, to learn from each other, and to challenge each other, and even become a champion for improving the quality of the rural water supply infrastructure. So some of the Stop the Rot Action Group members are already here and part of this great panel, and we've got a few others who've joined to really look at 5 important issues for you to engage with. Fadzai is going to present them to you, but before she does that, I just want to make a couple of points, and that what you see here and what we have on today's webinar are not all the issues that we need to think about. And secondly, these issues interconnect. So for example, the biofouling of borehole, that will affect hand pump corrosion, or hand pump upgrades and design improvements, that will affect the supply chain. And seasonality is also an issue in borehole design. Or changes to the supply chain may reduce hand pump corrosion. Anyway, before you start to fear missing something out, and as Fadza will explain, you can take part in 2 topics in the discussion. Let me kind of hand over. This is an experiment, this webinar, so let's see what we can learn from the process and the content. And one thing that I'm sure of is that improving infrastructure quality needs not just champions and guidelines, but that we truly work together and learn from each other. So with that, happy network and sharing. Back to you, Fadzai.
Thank you very much, Kirsten, for that amazing journey. Yet it's a journey that is actually empowering people to action. So what caught my attention is that the issue of corrosion has been known for so many years. But what's inspiring is that Stop the Rot, to me, is a movement for solutions. So I do hope that each and every one of you is already a champion or will become a champion at the end of this webinar. Kirsten is already the lead champion and she's looking for more champions to join in. So moving on, like I mentioned earlier, this webinar is a webinar with a difference. We will have interactions and discussions with specialists for different topics, the topics that we mentioned earlier. So it follows the World Café sort of format, and there will be 5 breakout rooms where we'll have live discussions and questions with the specialists that we have. So I want you to imagine you are in a conference room and there are several booths that you can walk around and have specialists and have one-to-one discussions with them. That's what we want to bring, but only in a virtual platform. And we'll just have 2 sessions where we're going to have the round again.
Maybe we can move to the next slide. So we'll first have presentations for each of the breakout rooms. So the first breakout room will be focused on borehole design, drilling, and construction. So Ayebele will be doing the pitch for this group. So Ayebele, you got 1 minute to present. Ayebele?
Yes, I hope everybody can hear me.
Yes, clear.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are. This is the breakout room concerning the bore drilling, design, and construction. Join me, Michael and myself, as we elaborate what happens at the drilling site, right from how we prepare the site health and safety, the drilling methods. We talk about the site setups. We talk about how to drill and the troubleshooting, designing of the boreholes, borehole constructions, borehole development. We talk about sanitary seals, pumping tests, and water quality sampling. And finally, we talk about borehole protection. Water being the process being the process that is very pertinent in the quality. Let's join our room and we are able to understand what happens in the drilling section. I thank you very much and welcome you to the room.
Thank you so much, Ayebele. And then for the next breakout room, it will be about seasonality of drilling and hand pump operations. So for this breakout room, I invite Catherine to present the pitch.
Thanks, Aline. Hi, everyone. I'm introducing Breakout Room 2 on behalf of my colleagues, Joan Were and Brian Otieno, who are joining from Kakamega in Western Kenya. We work together at the Water Project, and we're involved in the full life cycle of boreholes and hand pumps, from pre-drilling all the way through sustained O&M. And through this work, we've learned about how our operations and activities are affected by seasonality. And in response to that, we've adapted our work to address these seasonal fluctuations and really consider them in our processes and protocols. So please join us in Breakout Room 2 to discuss what we've learned, what we've implemented, and most importantly, share your own experience with the effects of seasonality on drilling and O&M. We look forward to our conversation and continuing to learn together in Breakout Room 2. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Fadzai, are you able to speak now? Is your connectivity back?
Yes, thank you so much, Aline. Thank you very much, Catherine, for your invitation to Group 2. We move on to the pitch for Group 3 or Room 3. I'd like to invite Sandy Pollack. Sandy Pollack is a mechanical engineer working on industrial machinery problems, head of Poldo Designs in the UK, and he's experienced with technology that is appropriate for wind pumps and hand pumps since 1980. Welcome, Sandy Pollack, and please tell us what you would want to discuss in Group 3.
Hello, we invite you to discuss the controversial hypothesis that deep well hand pump breakdowns can be largely eliminated by introducing redesigned and improved components. We have been carrying out service trials on India Mark IIs and Afridevs with upgraded components over the last 5 years. Join us for an interesting exchange of opinions, ideas, and experience. I am Sandy Pollack of Poldo Designs UK. We work with WaterAid Uganda and with Design Outreach USA and with Fisherman's Rest Madzi Alipo Project Malawi. My 3 colleagues today are Alfred Odokonyero of WaterAid Uganda and Harlod Zaunda and Victor of Madzi Alipo Project Malawi. We look forward to your thoughts and questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. We've been invited to Group 3, and we move on to Group 4. I will invite Prof. Siddhartha to give us what they want to discuss in their room. And Professor Sid and his students conduct research at intersection of water quality and treatment, corrosion science, human health, and global development across the United States, West Africa, and South Asia. Welcome to the podium, Prof. Sid.
Hi, everyone. I think Daniel
Yes.
was supposed to do our pitch, so I'll let Daniel do the pitch.
Hello, my name is Daniel Hudson. I will be facilitating the discussion with Dr. Siddhartha Roy and PhD candidate Jenny Florent. I am a master's student at the University of Strathclyde. I'll be facilitating a discussion with yourselves and these two researchers. We'll be discussing some of the broader effects of rapid hand pump corrosion beyond just the financial components and beyond just the rapid replacement of components that are rusting. And then we'll also be looking into some of the chemistry around rapid hand pump corrosion, which is a point of expertise by Jenny and Siddhartha. And we'll also be discussing some potential field test equipment which might be usable in the field. We would also like to hear about your experiences and any solutions which you have found in your day-to-day work that we can share in this broader Stop the Rot group. We would love for you to join us in group 4.
Thank you very much, Daniel, for that. We're going to quickly move on to the last and not the least, group 5. I will hand over to Donya so she can tell us more about what they want to discuss in group 5.
I will share, but I think Mahilesh would be much better, would do a much better justice to this breakout room overview. Mahilesh, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. My name is Mahilet Berryhoon. I'm a second-year PhD student at the University of Surrey who researches hand pump supply chains, especially as it relates to quality assurance. So please do join our breakout room for a discussion on supply chain-related challenges that have persisted in the hand pump sector, looking at drivers of quality issues and some different perspectives from different stakeholders on what drives quality issues in the hand pump market, as well as looking at the role of partnership, trust, procurement, and power, and how that all feeds into the decisions that are being made within the hand pump supply chain. So please do join the breakout room because I would love to hear from you, your perspective, regardless of what kind of stakeholder you are. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mahilet. So to our audience, you have heard the invitations, you have heard their pitches. The rooms are now going to be open where we want to just have discussions with these specialists that you've heard about. Welcome back from session 1. I do hope that everyone is back in the main room. I hope you have enjoyed this session as much as I did. Quite some discussions that went on, some hot topics in our groups, in our group, that is group 1. I won't market it, otherwise everyone would want to actually join group 1, but I'll let people join every other group, any group of your choice. So thank you very much for those lively discussions. We hope that you enjoyed. And now we're going to have a second session. So here you have the opportunity to choose once again any of the groups that are available, group 1, 2, 3, or 4. 5 then remains in the main room. We'll have another 25-minute session of this particular World Café, and then we'll come back again, and then we'll have our key takeaways and the end of the webinar. Just to share with you what we were discussing, I hope that not everyone is going to then join room 1, but we were discussing one interesting thing was ensuring that a well is straight. Straight holes sometimes are a problem in some areas because of different things that are done as drilling is going on. So it's part of the construction process. It's also about drilling in tension versus drilling in compression. So it's important for, if you're a supervisor or driller, to know the difference between the two to ensure that a straight hole is actually drilled. One of the other things that we also spoke about is the issue of annular space. When we have too little annular space, so the annular space is the space between the casing that we're going to place and the borehole itself. When we've got a too little annular space, then we're bound to have a borehole that is not also straight. So it's important to have, usually the standard is 4 inches of annular space, or rather 2 inches annular space on each side of could be the drilling rod or the casing. That will ensure that you've got a straight hole, amongst other things. So we're going to move on to our groups. I'm sure we are
Yes.
ready to move into our groups. Remember, you can choose just any that you would want, even if it's going back to the old room that you were in. So over to you, Batima, so we can split up. So welcome back, everyone, to the main session. I'm hoping that you've had some insightful moments in the groups as you were learning from the different specialists. And I do hope you've got a lot of takeaways and that you can be champions for the Stop the Rot movement, as I call it. So we're going to have a session where we just have 1-minute takeaways from our specialists. So we'll have the different specialists speak to us from each and every one of the room. So for room 1, I invite Mike Lane to come forward to the podium to just give us a minute of what he took away from the session that he had in the 2 sessions that he had in the room 1.
Thanks, Fadzai. It was quite an interesting session. We discussed variously seasonality, which affects drilling, as well as the seasonal nature discussed in group 2. We had discussions of bentonite, site, health, safety, and environment, both on site as well as keeping communities safe. We discussed a very interesting conversation in relation to verticality of a borehole and how that could be prevented and how it could be diagnosed. Once again, seasonality came back. We had a fairly interesting conversation on artesian boreholes and how to best manage them, both in terms of the wellhead, i.e. putting in a Christmas tree, that's the technical expression, that manages pressure, and whether or not you then put in a pump. You may not, depends on the context. We were particularly discussing a borehole in northern Uganda called Wanguru. And finally, we also discussed why old boreholes go bad. And this is sometimes simply because they're old, they become less efficient, or because the aquifer has become depleted through competition for water. Efficiency you can reverse or you can improve. Competition you can't. You need to actually come to some kind of agreement or take some solace in the laws that allow different waters to be fairly distributed. I think that's my lot. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike. Quite an interesting conversations we had in there. Next, I'd like to invite Catherine to just tell us some of the things that they took away from room 2. Catherine, over to you.
Thanks, Fadzai. Yeah, I'm sad to report that in room 2 we did not solve the issues of seasonality in drilling and O&M, but we had some really interesting conversations. I think one of my big takeaways is that switching infrastructure types is not necessarily going to solve the problem. You know, we need to work on improving our quality control regardless of infrastructure type. So we talked about the transition from hand pumps to maybe deeper wells with submersible pumps, but that can come with challenges both related to seasonality and other aspects of sustainability, including everything I think probably covered by other groups here, but financial sustainability, supply chain issues, things like that. And we talked about the importance of supervision and water quality. So really everything is part of this this broader system of quality control, and we need to consider all these elements as part of seasonality.
Thank you so much. It's just interesting to see how these topics actually interlink. As in group one, we also spoke about seasonality, and we did speak about supervision as well. So not one group would say they can stand alone, but we know that each component actually builds on the quality of our boreholes. Next, we want to hear from room 3, Sandy Pollack. Welcome, and please give us a brief.
Thank you. Yes, we had some interesting discussions. We had quite a few people talk about the problems with GI pipes and rust corrosion. They also talked about the problems with stainless steel pipes on the India Mark II, which were put forward by many countries as the ideal replacement. But they have quality problems, they have failures of their own, and of course they're extremely expensive. We took the opportunity to talk about the PVC pipes that we've been developing and testing over the last 6 years, and I think quite a few people are interested in trying those in their own countries. So it was partly about quality, partly about technology changes, and also about availability. People are saying stainless steel pipes aren't easily available in their country, so never mind that they're expensive. If you can't get them, you can't do it. So we talked a little bit about supply chains and supply chains in the future, including the supply chains that we are setting up for our modified versions of these pumps. So that was on the India Mark II, and I would say most of the discussion was about India Mark II. But we did talk about AfriDevs because several people also reported issues with AfriDevs regarding their depth capability and reliability problems. And we got confirmation that the rod centralizers on AfriDevs are, as we believed, the biggest single problem. And of course, both Fisherman's Rest and Design Outreach and we have some solutions to that issue, as well as solutions to other reliability problems on the AfriDev. Of course, we couldn't go into them in great depth, but that's what the discussions were about. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Sandy. Lots of insights around the AfriDev, around supply chain. We hope that in the next discussions, we can talk more of how we've developed in terms of supply chains for these different components or infrastructure that we're speaking about. So we move on to room 4. Professor Sid, please take us through your key takeaways.
Yeah, thank you. It might as well be room 3 and room 4 may have overlapped because we had a lot of the same conversations. A few things that I'll highlight. Obviously, we talked about the challenge of rapid hand pump corrosion, but the associated challenges of just having discolored water, water with metallic taste, water with potentially high lead, in addition to premature failures, like are important aesthetic and health considerations for everyone who relies on these systems. So we talked a bit about that. We heard about the new survey that RWSN just concluded in 30 plus countries and how some of the findings from that survey show how corrosion is often a localized problem depending on aquifers or groundwater corrosivity, and the need for better testing to be able to understand your groundwater first before you actually decide on a system and the parts that you'll use to build it. The central dilemma that many of us wrestled with is cost versus material selection. And given stainless steel is expensive, but also reliable. But if you get low-grade stainless steel, you have a problem. If you get low-quality stainless steel, that is a problem. If you go to UPVC, lead sometimes is a problem. And so there are all these problems that we're wrestling with and trying to come up with, I guess, rules of thumb to be able to decide what to do. So we had talked a bit about that process and how to think about these problems. Um, and finally, I think an important issue that we ended on was galvanic corrosion, that depending on the materials you choose, you should maintain uniformity and not mix materials so that if you're moving to stainless steel, for example, making sure everything is stainless steel, again, cost issues aside, because if you don't, then you'll have the system failing in other ways, and that's not good. So lots of good technical and practical issues to consider.
Thank you so much. It looks like we still need to do some research on some of these elements to actually find out what really works best. We will quickly move on to group 5. Mahile, please take us through your key takeaways from the group 5.
Right, thank you very much. Yes, so we had a lot of discussions surrounding supply chains. Firstly, about which decision makers are driving quality within the supply chain. There are some people who believe the purchasers and the ways in which they purchase was driving quality within the supply chain. But we also had the other view from some of the members in the first session who explained that sometimes quality is difficult to check, and therefore the decision making from purchaser sides, whilst there might be driving quality issues, that some are of the belief that suppliers have the upper hand on understanding or having more information on quality. And so we discussed a little bit about how we can check quality, or if it depends on the stakeholder when purchasing. We also talked about how the market works, and we were given examples of places where there's a little bit of a monopoly of suppliers within the hand pump supply chain, and how that leaves purchasers without many options. And once again, they might have to pay prices because there isn't competitive prices from other suppliers available. It seems like stainless steel was also a topic of conversation for us as well. We also were talking about stainless steel similarly, some issues there are with checking quality of stainless steel. But lastly, just seeing some of the connections of different countries and seeing some of the trends that may exist and also the differences. Also spoke briefly about regulation and what regulation means and what needs to be prioritized when regulating the hand pump supply chain. I hope that's okay. I hope I kept it quite brief, and I will hand it over to you, Fatsai.
Thank you so much, Mahile. It looks like supply chain was almost cutting across, and stainless steel became the hot topic of the webinar. But thank you so much. What great fun this was. It just shows that we need to learn from each other because there are different experiences from different countries. So thank you everyone for coming and sharing your insights and your questions. It really made this webinar informative and helped so many people. So just to remind you that we can learn more from sustainable groundwater development over and above what we've learned in this particular webinar. We can also go onto the RWSN website and follow. We've got the Stop the Rot on the RWSN website where we've got reports, flyers, and blogs. We also have the RWSN Sustainable Groundwater discussion groups. Those are the D groups. We also have the Rural Water Supply Network Water Well Drillers, a WhatsApp group. So if you're interested, you could join this. And we also have another WhatsApp group on pumps and pipes. So please feel free to get more information from these different platforms. Thank you so much for joining this webinar. You made this webinar with a difference really interesting. But just a reminder, this is the last of the early webinar series. The other series you can catch the recordings on the RWSN webinar for all the 4 webinars that we've had, and including this particular webinar. We look forward to seeing you in the late webinar series at the end of the year. Thank you so much for joining, and enjoy the rest of your day or evening. Goodbye.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And please remember to complete the survey at the end.